We're going to talk about numbers, right? We talked about this before, but we talked about that numbers are the language of business, right? So we always know that numbers are the language of business. What does that mean again?
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years. Our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
I got to know my numbers to be able to understand my business, right? So if I want to go to France and speak to people, what I got to speak? French, right? Go to Spain, you want to talk to people, what I got to speak? Spanish, right? You just got to be able to do that. I can't go there and talk different language and get any type of results. So in business, I have to know my numbers to get any type of results I want to get. You guys with me on this? It's very, very important to understand there. And so that's the key part here is if you don't know your numbers, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. Say that again. If you don't know your numbers, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. They drive everything, right? Specifically, my leading indicators talked about this a few weeks ago, right? Leading indicators, lag indicators. Leading means what? Leading indicators are the things I do on the front end, which has to do with what? I taught this a couple weeks ago. Activities, right? So my activities that I control, which dials will be one of those. My lag indicators are my numbers that are like what? Results, my closings, right? It could also be listings taken, things like that, right? So my lag indicator could also be days on market, all that stuff we'll talk about in a few things. But every single thing runs on numbers in business. Doesn't matter what it is, right? If you look at airline tickets, you look at airline tickets, there's 2 more left at this price, right? It's because their business is run on what? Numbers. They know exactly how many they have to sell to be able to break even. They know exactly how they got to sell to make a profit. And if they're not selling enough seats, what do? Drop the price to make sure they can add more people to the seats to make it a break-even flight so they don't lose money. Same thing with stadiums, right? They're doing the same thing with that. Stockbrokers, hedge funds, restaurants, every single business to survive in business has to know what? Their numbers. Now, if you said add to ask, as an industry, would you say real estate agents are good at looking at numbers? As an industry, are real estate agents bad at looking at numbers or good at looking at numbers? Very bad, right? And so we have to make sure that we understand that we got to get good at understanding the numbers here and understanding the most simple ones first, especially as we go to any type of downturn or any challenge part, right? And here's the thing. Ask yourself this. How often are you looking at your numbers? Super important. Because here's the thing. It's never how you feel. The numbers never lie, but our emotions lie, our feelings lie. We feel like we're doing things we're not. And what's happening is I can do this the right way. Now, what can numbers do for me? Numbers do 2 main things. They guide you to make better decisions, more intelligent decisions. The second thing they do is they get you to the destination faster. So here, who here wants to travel? You want to take the long way or the short way? Short way, right? Would you be crazy to take a route to Charlotte that takes 3 extra hours? But that was what's happened if you don't have a GPS, right? For most people that haven't been there before, or many times. But what we're doing in business is we're just driving around without a GPS, can't figure out why we can't get where we want to go. You can't figure out why you're stuck at the same place you were last quarter as you are this quarter, or the quarter before that. And so it's very, very important to understand. And I want you to ask your question this to yourself. What's the impact of you not looking at your numbers in your business, understanding where they are? What's the impact of not looking at your numbers and understanding where they are? And write it down, right? What's the impact of not looking at your numbers? If you don't track the numbers, you're driving out a GPS, you're just guessing. When I'm just guessing, I'm doing a lot of extra work on that doesn't matter, that doesn't get me paid. And so I'm making emotional responses to things that don't really need an emotional response. They need more of a data-driven response, which can get me to that outcome much quicker, right? And so what types of things are important for us to track? We talked about this a million times, but dials, conversations, appointments booked, appointments held, appointments signed, offers written, offers accepted, listings taken, listings sold, average days on market, right? If my days on market is up, what does that mean? I need to work a lot better on my pricing on my front end. Not at the listing. Not once I have the listing. I need to work on my pricing on the front end of my listings, right? That doesn't mean I need to get price reductions, but that's part of the game too. And so here's the deal. I need to make sure I'm understanding what's going on. And so also, if I'm looking and I realize I'm tracking, I'm only talking to 2 people an hour, the numbers don't lie. What does that mean?
Something wrong with the phone number.
I must be distracted in my follow-up, or there's something wrong with my phone number. Some people make dials all day, every day for 3 months and talk to 1 or 2 people an hour, and they just keep doing what they're doing without spending extra $4 a month to get a new phone number. Right? It's crazy, and that's what you need to understand. Like, look, what's your time worth? Is it worth investing $4 a month on a new number? Absolutely. And so it's important for me to understand how, right? The numbers are your opportunity to make adjustments intelligently and get to the destination quicker. I already covered it earlier, but the numbers are your opportunity to make adjustments intelligently and get to the destination quicker, right? And so, like I mentioned, how many wants to get to the destination quicker? Pretty much all of us, right? When it comes to the numbers, you should write this down. Math is the path. And there's 2 ways. Numbers can make you feel really good. Numbers can make you feel really, but it's not really about how you feel. It's about the adjustments I can make based on it. So my conversion's down. I got to figure out where or why, what's off. Right? And so it's important to understand, hey, look, why am I getting off? What's happening? And you can compare that to other people, and you compare it to yourself. So it's important for me to look and understand that. Now, what do you guys think is the most important number to track in your business? Most important number. Conversations. Why? Now, dials is like I like to track the most easily daily because it's just a standard. But the most important number to track is conversations. Why? Yes, well, conversations will lead to something, right? So conversations allows me to understand, hey, look, am I actually talking to you? Because I can make mindless dials over and over and over, right? But if I'm not having conversations, do the dials matter? They're worthless, right? And so it's a standard. This is a minimum. This is like the minimum standard to get into the amusement park to play the rides, right? To ride on the rides. And so if I have this, but the next thing here I want to understand, which is important. So this is like the first thing we track, but the most important thing I want to track is conversations. How many people am I talking to a day? Now, if I can increase my conversations per hour, that's what I want to make sure I'm looking at. You guys with me on this? There's a saying, even if I'm having conversations that, look, a blind squirrel can eventually dig and find a nut, right? So the reality is, if I'm having enough conversations, I'm eventually going to sell something. So if I want to sell more in business, what do I got to do? Have more conversations. Now, I don't want to increase my skill set as well, which is super important. So the most important number I track is the people I talk to per day. Now, I want you guys, and it's a little bit different for the seller side, but just in general, on general brokers for both, write down your goal for the number of homes you want to sell this year to get the income you want. What's the number of homes? Let's say we're doing 40 houses. If your number is less, you can do less. That's fine. You guys with me on this? 40 houses. Now, this is what number is showing today's market nationally based on track this thing G3 I'm part of. It's 100 to 125 conversations per deal. 100 to 125 conversations per deal. So if I'm really good skill set wise, what's the number going to be? 100. If I'm not as good skill set wise, it's going to be more towards 125 conversations. Now, what's a conversation? I have a detailed conversation with an adult who can obviously buy or sell something. Not a text message, not an email, not an email response. I have an actual conversation on the telephone with somebody. Doesn't mean I got to book the appointment. It's just what? Conversation. Talking about buying or selling real estate. It could be a past client. It could be a current client. It can be someone who is in my bucket. Now, we are a little bit higher than national numbers a little bit. Because why? We're a vacation destination. So vacation destination, I can't meet with the same person today if I could if I was in like Nebraska. Does that make sense? So, but you're still using these numbers as a good base. Because some of these are a little bit longer nurture deals. But ideally, that's the overall numbers today, right? So 100 to 125 conversations per deal. If your skills are great, towards 100. Here's the deal. Check this out. This is a big aha for me. That's why I'm teaching it. In 2021, guess what the number was? What would you say, Ryan? Yeah, the actual number was 55 to 60. Why do you think that is? The market was 2021. The market was doing all the heavy lifting for you guys in 2021. So it was such a frenzy. What was happening? They were tackling us to buy something, and so all the pressure and all the motivation and all the movement was just coming directly from the market and the speed of the market. And so because of that, now what has to happen? You have to move it along more manually, and you have to be good at what you're doing to move the people along. And they're a little bit more skeptical, right? They're a little bit more hesitant in how they make decisions. And so that's an interesting number to look at from a data standpoint. And they actually show me the data is tracked in like lots and lots of spreadsheets from these apps they use, right? And so that was just very valuable to understand. And so if I understand that, that means I have to have that many more, double the conversations for the same amount of deal. We talked about that, months and months ago, right? You just have to double down your calls and your conversations to sell the same amount of houses. And so if you're brand new, that's a good thing, right? But so if I want to sell 40 homes, let's just say you're pretty good for an easy number. How many conversations I need to have? 4,000. Over what? A year. So that's the key number here. Now let's say I break that down to every single week, right? Or day. I want you guys to write this number down. 220. What do you think that is? What's 220 mean? Nope. This is the days that you prospect in the year. It's 11 months out the year. It gives you 4 weeks off. So, I want you guys, whatever your number was, times 100 and times 125. If you're not really good, do times 125. So, your number of homes you want to sell, times 100, and then do 125, whatever you want to find in the middle there. But unless you're really good, don't be putting 100 in. I'm going to do it to kind of keep you guys a simple number here. Yep. So, I have 4,000 actually, 4,000 divided by 220 equals for me 18 conversations a day. So that means I need to be talking to what? 11 for years. When? Per day. Per day. That's significant. Right? For some of you, that's kind of overwhelming. And that's why it's important for me to do what? To track this. Your number might be better than this. Is this a little bit too high? We don't know. Why? Because you ain't tracking this, right? You got to make sure you're tracking and understand that this is important. This is based on national data. And so what I'm looking for you guys is I want you guys to understand, like, I need to make sure I'm not just making mindless dials and I'm having conversations with people, and this is going to help me get where I want. And it should be two things to do for you. Number one, to be a little bit scary. And number two, it should be freeing for you. Because now, if I broke this simply down, I can just do what? Find a way to talk to 18 people a day and make sure I'm getting this done. Okay?
Like, what qualifies as a conversation? Is it somebody that just gives you an objection and you're not going to get past it, or is it somebody you actually have a valid conversation where you're trying to pitch them an offer?
You have a valid conversation about real estate, okay, right? So you don't just make an offer and they just give you the one liner and you fold.
Right.
Does that make sense? You need to be able to And here's the thing: is this is not just brand new leads. These people in your bucket, people you talked to before, right? People that are clients. So there's a combination of all this. Just how many conversations they take per deal overall. Does that make sense? And so some of this will be people in your bucket, people are non-local. But like if you're getting a lot of no's on non-locals, like your tonality, I heard a lot of no's yesterday, but they don't realize it's not the people. Who is it? It's you, your tonality. I heard it yesterday, multiple people, multiple different times. I didn't have the time or the energy to go sit with every single person, right? Because you can listen to that and record it yourself and understand that's what's happening. But like that takes a lot doing it over and over and over. But just want you guys to understand, look, there is non-local should be like, yeah, I'll take this free service, and you just tell me what your information is and set me up, right? Who wouldn't want somebody to help them out on that? But if they're telling you no, then well, guess what? The script's way off, or your tonality is way off, especially for non-locals. Now, if it's a local, sometimes it's a little more difficult to book that appointment. But I should know how many it takes me to book the appointment to get there. You guys with me on this? So it's very important to understand overall. Now, here's what I want to do. What's the overall goal? This is what they say nationally. If I'm super focused, 6 to 7 conversations an hour. 6 to 7 conversations per hour. This is true. I heard a lot of you guys have 6, 7 conversations in an hour yesterday. And it's really lopsided. It's always like 3 or 4 people having back-to-back conversations, and other people it's pure silence. And so this is what you got to understand. Like, look, I need to understand my numbers and what that is overall. And so if my goal is, let's say 19 conversations a day, I do whatever it takes. I don't stop until I do what? Hit 19 conversations a day, period. If I got to stay late, if I got to get here earlier, and this is what the value of tracking does for me. And I want you guys to have a simple number of like, here's how you get to where you want to go to get to where you need to be. Right? I look at it, and if I say, well, I'm not getting 6 or 7 conversations per hour, first step is, number 1, tracking it. What's second step? Improving it. Right? So number 1, first step, track it. Second step, improve it. And what I got to do, I got to be honest with myself and say, hey, did I really go all out that last hour? I'm looking at Facebook and social media and checking my emails, right? Did I get distracted doing reactionary stuff? And here's the deal, my biggest weakness, I get distracted in emails because I get 55 problems a day, right? And so I just get stuck in this email vortex versus being in a productive period where I can be able to focus on, deep work, so to speak. Does that make sense, you guys? So it's important to do so with that. Whatever it is, I've got to make sure that I'm making sure that I'm sacrificing something to get this number, right? If you're not hitting your numbers, you're simply not talking to enough people, right? You got to find where the sacrifice must be made. There's a great quote I got, which I thought was really cool. The breakthrough or the transformation that you want to have in your business is built on the sacrifice you are willing or not willing to do. The breakthrough that you want to have in your business is built on the sacrifice you are willing or not willing to do.